Hello and welcome to Trial TV Live. I am the Squeegee of Justice. Thank you so much for joining us today as we are beginning our coverage of Florida versus the Florida Five. And this is the Suni Bell shooting trial. So thank you for joining us. Appreciate you guys coming in. This is going to be opening statements. The trial started today. It was very difficult to find, but Erin was able to find it. So kudos to Erin as always. She found it, and we are going to do opening statements now, and then we'll pick up on the rest of the day tomorrow. So we're going to split the stream up. If you're watching live, that's what's going to happen. If you're watching this on replay, it doesn't matter. Just go to the next video. So thank you guys for joining us. We'll just get right into it. So let me, this is going to pull up Courtney Clenny, so give me a second and give me a moment. All right, hold on a second, you guys. Let's see, we were streaming Courtney Clenny before, so we're just kind of doing a little scrambling right now, so just bear with us. Okay. So here are the five gentlemen that are accused of this crime. So this happened August 22nd of 2021. There's a lot of names here, so I have to get this sorted out. We have James Densson. And again, these are all new names to me, so it'll take me a few minutes to get this sorted out. We have James Densson. We have Jalen Bedward. I can't even read my own writing. Hold on a sec, you guys. Let me, okay. So we have Samson, Quandarius Hammond. We have Jalen Bedward. We have James Densson and Andrew Thompson. All right, so those are the five. From the top, we have James Densson. He's 24. We have Jalen Bedward, he's 22. We have Andrew Thompson, he's 22. We have Javante Samson, he's 30. And we have Andrew, nope, who did I not name? We have Quandarius Hammond. All right, so those are the five that are involved in the shooting. And we have Suni Bell, who was 4 years old. So I have about 10 minutes of background news articles, news clips, I should say, to play for you. But basically, August 22nd of 2021, Suni Bell, who was 4 years old at the time, she was in a vehicle with her mom and her uncle. So mom and brother, right? Those two, sister and brother. So that's her uncle and her mom. They were riding back. She was in the back seat. Uncle was driving. This happened in Tampa Bay area of Florida. So they had gone to an event earlier in the day, and they were driving around trying to go to an after event party, if you will. We'll get into that more. You'll hear more about that. And they drove past a gas station where a bunch of people were hanging out, right? That's what they do. They're hanging out. And they saw this car drive by. They thought this car was involved with a previous situation, possibly a shooting, possibly some kind of, turf situation, if you will. They thought it was another car. Defendants jump in the car so there were three cars involved. The defendants jump in two separate cars. So there's a lead car, there's a middle car, and there's an end car. The defendants were in one in car 3. The defendants there's nobody that was in car 2 is represented in this trial. So you've got car 1 and car 3. Those are the cars that the defendants are in. So they go after Suni Bell's car, the victim's car. Victim's car does a U-turn. The defendants do a U-turn as well. They catch the car. They shoot into the car, and they strike Suni Bell, and she passes away. And uncle who's driving the car, he crashes the car. He runs away. Also, mom, she runs away trying to get help, I believe, or something. We'll hear about that as we go on. But Suni, unfortunately, does not make it. So that's where we stand with that's sort of the background. But I'm going to play a couple. Let's come here, and let's play a couple of news clips to kind of give you guys a background of where we are. So this happened on the 22nd. The first one is going to be a candle vigil from the 23rd. All right, hold on a sec. Excuse me.
We pray that you bless this family with justice today.
An emotional evening tonight as family and friends gathered to remember the life of 4-year-old Suni Bell. She was killed Sunday night in Tampa when somebody started shooting into the car she was in. Late today, police released video of a potential suspect car. Fox 13's Evan Axelbank is live at TPD to tell us more about the vigil the family held tonight. Evan, this is just heartbreaking to me, this little precious little 4-year-old girl.
Yeah, and we're talking about a happy 4-year-old girl who was killed for literally no reason. Police do have leads. They need your help for more. Just a look at Suni Bell's face shows why prayers
Our hearts bleed today. We hurt today, God.
and balloons only go so far for her grandmother.
A 4-year-old baby? My God.
Family and friends came together for a vigil less than 24 hours after Suni was shot and killed Sunday night.
I just want justice, peace.
She was in this light-colored car with 2 adults going west on Hillsborough near 43rd when police believe someone in this dark car opened fire. Suni was rushed to a hospital, but there was nothing doctors could do.
It's early on in the investigation. We're looking at all options. Certainly when you look at who was in the car, one of the questions is it a mistaken identity or is there something further here that we need to look into?
Though the people in Suni's car are cooperating, the mayor and several elected officials blamed a no-snitch mentality and the availability of guns.
These are weapons of mass destruction that we have right here in our community. You all know where these guns are. Y'all got to start talking.
Suni's family is eager to let everyone know what a happy little girl this was.
Joyful person, laughing, loving, a typical 4-year-old, going to school, ready every day, back to school the first 2 weeks, ready for her pictures.
From sending her off to pre-K to planning a funeral in the blink of an eye.
If y'all know something or seen something, it's a baby, a 4-year-old baby. It matters for any life, but a baby, if y'all know something or seen something, please.
And so again, police are asking anybody with information to come forward. They're in fact begging you to do so. There is a reward for anybody who has information that leads to an arrest. Kelly.
We hope somebody does, and our thoughts and prayers tonight with Suni's family. Thank you, Evan.
All right, so that was the day after. So this happened on the 22nd. Now we'll find out that there were 40 casings that were found. 40 casings. So that's going to be important because there's 5 defendants, 40 casings. That's cars 1 and 3. So car 2, there's nobody from car 2 that's being prosecuted at this point. So that's where we stand with that. All right, this next one is the 26th. This happened on the 26th, and I know this might be a tough trial. Anything that involves kids, I agree.
The search continues for.
It's always difficult, but as we say here, we don't shy away from the tough cases because, we do want to, make sure that people know who Suni Bell is. I don't want her to just be known as a shooting victim. I want her to be known as something more than that. So, all right. So this is from August 26th. So 4 days after.
The search continues for whoever shot and killed a 4-year-old little girl on Hillsborough Avenue on Sunday. Her family is sending out an emotional plea tonight, asking whoever pulled the trigger to turn themselves in. ABC Action News reporter Heather Lee joined the Tampa Police Department and community activists as they canvassed the neighborhood near the spot where she was killed, and they're looking for answers tonight.
The story.
Hey, so I don't know if you heard it now. We had a 4-year-old that got shot.
Can't be shared enough.
She got killed.
It's why officers are going door to door in the neighborhood just north of Hillsborough Avenue near 43rd Street.
Did you know around the corner we had a 4-year-old that was shot?
Pairing details of what happened to 4-year-old Suni Bell with a picture of her infectious smile.
Keep the flyer again. There's a phone number on the bottom to contact the police department in case you happen to talk to your neighbors, anyone hears anything or has some possible leads.
Sunday, while riding in the car with her mother, someone in another car started shooting into their back window. A bullet hit Suni, later killing her.
When the babies start dying, it is time for us to make a change. We can't keep living like this.
Karen Peoples is still mourning the death of her son, who she says was shot and killed. What happened to Suni hits home for her.
I can't sleep at night. I really don't. I'm very restless because I'm wondering how this mother's sleeping. I'm wondering how the whole family is sleeping. I can't sleep from my own son's death.
Steve Smith took 2 flyers, one for himself and one for his wife.
I hope they catch him, because it's a shame that a little 4-year-old, which I got grandkids, and I don't want nothing to happen to them.
The Tampa Police Department is hoping someone has information that could help in its investigation.
Not that we aren't getting leads or tips, we just haven't gotten the right lead or tip.
They feel confident there's information in these streets. Suni's mom and 2 grandmothers think so too, but they hope whoever actually pulled the trigger will step up.
Just turn yourself in. Just turn yourself in. Because you can't hide, you can't run. Just turn yourself in, that's all. We just want justice for my grandbaby. She ain't even seen her life yet.
She was just starting her life.
And she just started school.
TPD says you can report information anonymously. Call Crime Stoppers at 1-800-873-8477. Heather Lee, ABC Action News.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And community leaders plan on holding a march in Suni's honor this Sunday, where they will circle around the neighborhood again. They hope to get more information about her death. We're going to post information about that event to abcactionnews.com for you.
So yes, Hellrider, this is a new trial out of Tampa Bay. And we're just going through the news reports right now. And eventually we are going to get to opening statements. So right now we're just going through the news. I'm just sort of kind of setting the table of what happened. So to me, it's like a case of mistaken identity, because it's kind of like they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. And I'm still trying to figure out, we'll hear more from, once the trial starts, but, so their car was here. There was a car, I guess there's 3 cars, and the cars 1 and 3, these defendants were riding in. Car 2, there are no defendants in from car 2. So we'll hear more about it as it develops. But that's right now we're just kind of setting the table, giving you as much backstory as we can before we get to opening statements.
4-year-old Suni Bell,
which will be coming up in a few minutes. I just want to get through these news clips.
4-year-old Suni Bell was shot and killed last week, and now her mother is begging whoever pulled the trigger to turn themselves in. Tampa police say they need more help from the community to find this shooter. 10 Tampa Bay's Eric Glasser was there today as teams of police officers fanned out in the neighborhood looking for leads.
Yeah, we were there today as Tampa police went door to door passing out these flyers in the very same neighborhood where little Suni Bell was killed Sunday night. With no arrests yet, Tampa police and a group of volunteers saturated this East Tampa neighborhood, handing out information to those who were home, leaving it on the doors of those who weren't.
We feel confident that people know what happened to Sonny.
I actually heard those shots. I was sitting right in my living room. It's sad. Like, I've been crying. I don't even know this baby.
Suni Bell was killed Sunday night around 9 p.m. near the intersection of 43rd Street and Hillsborough Avenue. Someone following her mother's silver Infiniti sedan shot at the car, which then crashed into a pole. Sonny was rushed to the hospital, but died.
I just want justice for my daughter. That's it. I just want you guys just to turn yourself in and get it over with.
Since the shooting, there's been a vigil in the little girl's memory, a march for peace in this same neighborhood, even a reward of nearly $10,000 offered for information leading to an arrest.
It's not that we aren't getting leads or tips, we just haven't gotten the right lead or tip.
Which is why they were back out here today, hoping this flyer, this picture, either jogs someone's memory or stirs someone's conscience enough to come forward.
I doubt very seriously that their intention was to kill a 4-year-old, but we need to talk. They need to come in.
We can't sleep at night. We haven't eaten anything. Just please, if y'all have any answers to anything, just please.
Again, if you have any information in this case, you are asked to contact Tampa Police or Crime Stoppers. There is a $9,500 reward for information leading to an arrest, and you can remain anonymous.
As far as I know, Sonny was the only one that was shot. 40 casings were found. But as far as I know, Uncle and her mom were okay. So we'll have to see how the evidence presents itself. So for now, we're just kind of, like I said, we're just doing the backstory. But we'll get to the evidence in a second.
Four-year-old Suni Bell's casket being pulled away in a horse-drawn carriage after family and friends said their final goodbyes.
It was a celebration. It was a celebration for a princess, and we needed that.
LaShawn Timms is with an organization called 813 Stop the Violence. She was at Sonny's funeral to show support for her family and their push for justice.
We need some help because I sit in trouble because yet still we have no justice for Sonny. And Sonny was 4 years old.
2 weeks after the girl was killed in a shooting on Hillsborough Avenue, the Tampa Police Department hasn't made...
We want peace. We want answers. But at this time, the family are still grieving.
The family is asking for the community's support at this time.
They just ask that you please keep them in your prayers. They ask that you keep this family lifted up, her brothers, her sisters, her mom, her dad, her grandparents.
Hoping an arrest is made to bring them some sense of closure.
All right, so there, Sonny, sweet Sonny is being laid to rest. Such a sweet little girl. Such a shame. All right, so this is now, that was September 5th. Remember, she was shot on the 22nd of August. So now here's September 30th. Here's a clip. We have a couple more clips to get through, and they're short. They're only like 2 minutes long, so they're not. We'll get to the actual trial in just a second. I just want to give you guys as much backstory as I can.
But we begin with,
because that's what we do here at Trial TV Live. We try to give you guys as much backstory and backstory and history as we can.
But we begin with a news alert out of Tampa, where a grand jury has indicted and charged 5 people with first-degree murder after shooting and killing a little 4-year-old girl, Suni Bell. She was shot and killed while sitting in her mother's car back on August 22nd. It happened near the intersection of 43rd Street and Hillsborough Avenue. At the time, investigators say a car pulled up next to her mother's car and then just started shooting. And they said they were trying to shoot her mom. Now, those 5 men have also been charged with attempted first-degree murder on another person in this case. That's likely Suni's mom. Conspiracy to commit murder and shooting into a car. You can see their names, some of their pictures right there. Officials said they are still investigating here because they believe there could be other people involved as well. If you have any tips, you're asked to call Crime Stoppers.
All right, so that's them arresting the 5. Here's another one. This is a 5 p.m. update. Let's check this one out. So this is another
breaking news. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Wendy Ryan.
And I'm Paula Gronin for Jameson. Big developments here tonight in the murder of a 4-year-old girl. Her name's Suni Bell, and today investigators have arrested several people in connection to her deadly shooting. Lauren St. Germain in the studio right now with what we're learning at this hour. Lauren?
Within the last 2 hours, we learned authorities arrested 5 people. Tampa police tell us Samson, Quindarius Hammond, Jalen Bedward, James Densson, and Andrew Thomas were all indicted for the first-degree murder of Suni Bell. She was killed on August 22nd near Hillsborough Avenue and 43rd Street while riding in a car with 2 adults. Authorities say a second car drove up on them and started shooting. We spoke with a family friend, and he told us what these arrests mean to Suni's family.
It's a good day. It's a good day for the family. They can now heal. They can now begin to go through this process of, trying to get themselves back together.
The pastor also thanked Tampa police for all the work they did on this case. Detectives do believe others may be involved in the case and want anyone with information to come forward and call Crime Stoppers of Tampa Bay. We have that number for you on our website, abcactionnews.com. Our team is on this story tonight, working to talk with people close to Suni. Look for their report coming up tonight on ABC Action News at 11.
All right, so we've got a couple more clips, 3 more clips to go through. And I hope this is giving you guys a little bit of a understanding of what.
Is they've pieced together a clear.
Hope this is giving you guys a good understanding of what's to come.
Is they've pieced together a clear puzzle as to what happened prior to the shooting, what happened at the shooting, and more importantly, who did the shooting.
A police report totaling more than 600 pages sheds light on a complex investigation relying heavily on surveillance videos from surrounding businesses. Legal expert Anthony Rickman says that's critical. He isn't connected to this case, but carefully reviewed the report.
So with this surveillance video now, law enforcement is able to have a clear glimpse of what happened.
Suni's uncle told detectives they had attended a remembrance party for a loved one and were looking for another planned gathering that night in August. As they circled the neighborhood around Hillsborough Avenue, they passed a Chevron gas station near 47th Street where a group of men were, quote, loitering.
They were able to identify the 5 defendants on that surveillance video. They were able to show that these 5 defendants got into the vehicle, one of which had an AR-15 style rifle.
According to the report, additional surveillance videos show the entire shooting unfold. Several men at the gas station jumped into 2 separate cars. Those vehicles followed the one carrying Suni and her family and can be seen pulling up alongside the car and gunmen opening fire. Roughly 40 bullet casings were found near the scene.
That video shows muzzle flashes and essentially capturing the moment where Suni is murdered.
The report indicates Suni's uncle ran out of the car and eventually into officers. He fainted but came to and told them what happened. Suni's mother stayed in the vehicle with her little girl. Investigators say Suni likely died in a matter of seconds.
This was an ambush by 2 vehicles on each side. And the victim is a 4-year-old baby in the back of the car yelling mommy as her last words.
Nearly 40 days later, police arrested 5 men: Jalen Bedward, James Densson IV, Quindarius Hammond, Samson, and Andrew Thompson. The one question left unanswered in the report: why did this happen?
Motive is not an element of first-degree murder. Everybody wants to know or ask why. Well, right now we don't know why. What we do know is who.
And all 5 of those suspects have pleaded not guilty. According to the report, some of them are now even pointing the finger at one another. Regardless, Rickman believes this report shows just how strong the case will be if this ever goes to trial. In Tampa, Aaron Mesmer, Fox 13 News.
All right, so he says two cars at that point, but we'll hear more. We'll hear more as we go along.
Jury selection began today for 5 men accused.
All right, so this was last week. I've got 2 more videos for you guys. This is from last week. 2 more.
Of shooting and killing a 4-year-old girl in Tampa.
Yeah, in August of 2021, 4-year-old Suni Bell was killed in a drive-by shooting. News Channel 8's Jeff Patterson joins us now live from the Hillsborough County Courthouse with today's developments. Jeff.
Good evening, Josh and Jen. 4-year-old Suni Bell's family has been asking for justice for years. Today, jury selection began in the trial of the 5 men accused of killing her.
Joyful person, laughing, loving, a typical 4-year-old.
This is the way family members describe 4-year-old Suni Bell. In August of 2021, she was killed when shots were fired into her family's car as they drove down Hillsborough Avenue. Tampa police condemned the shooting as a senseless act of violence. They arrested 5 men: Samson, Bedward, James Densson, Hammond, and Andrew Thompson in connection with the crime. Today, all 5 men sat in a Hillsborough County courtroom as a jury was selected for their trial. Chris Castillo is a Tampa defense attorney who has served as a Hillsborough County prosecutor. He says cases with multiple defendants are not that rare.
Co-defendant cases are not as rare as you think. People do commit crimes together rather regularly, so it's not an uncommon problem that's dealt with.
Castillo says cases like this do present legal issues because each defendant has a right to have their attorney question witnesses.
Each individual defendant has the right to confront their accusers and other witnesses against them.
But he says there are advantages to having all defendants sit for one trial.
The main reason is witness testimony and respect for victims. So the victims don't have to repeat their testimony and tell their story multiple times for multiple juries, and so the witnesses don't have to come down to do a trial multiple times over a period of time.
All 5 defendants in this case are charged with first-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, and shooting into an occupied vehicle. Jury selection did begin today, but it may take several days to complete. Live in Tampa, Jeff Patterson, 8 on your side.
Well, Bradenton Sr. thought someone was...
All right, so that's jury selection from yesterday. And then one more. This was from this morning, so... This is the last news clip that I'll play for you, and then we'll get into opening statements.
This morning here at 6:03, opening statement.
So I hope this is helping you guys get a better understanding. You know, sometimes we go into these, blind and we don't know anything. Sometimes we have, backstory. We're able to do deep dives. We're kind of sort of going in blind, but we do have a little bit of an understanding of what happened. But I'm sure there's much more evidence that's going to come out. Well, obviously, a lot more evidence will come out.
This morning here at 6:03, opening statements set to start today in Tampa, where 5 men stand trial accused of taking the life of a 4-year-old girl.
A story we've been covering here on 10 Tampa Bay. Suni Bell lost her life after being shot while sitting in the back seat of a car in August of 2021. 10 Tampa Bay's Christina Mendez joins us live this morning at the Hillsborough County Courthouse. Christina, after more than 4 years of waiting, this family is finally seeing this trial begin, as all of the men are pleading not guilty in this case.
Yeah, and all of them facing a lengthy list of charges. The most serious, of course, the first-degree murder of Suni Bell. This is the little girl, the 4-year-old, at the center of this trial that will start to unfold later this morning. Tampa police saying that Suni was shot while riding in a car near the intersection of 43rd Street and Hillsborough Avenue. At the time, investigators say drivers of other cars were following them before the shooting. And more than a month later, police arrested these 5 men: Samson, Hammond, Bedward, James Densson, and Andrew Thompson. All of them have pleaded not guilty. Opening statements set to begin at 9 this morning. 10 Tampa Bay will be inside the courthouse as that starts to unfold. We also want to say that testimony will begin following that, where we will finally see all of the years of evidence laid out on the table for the jury. Live in Tampa this morning, Christina Mendez, 10 Tampa Bay News.
All right, James, thank you. Happening right now in Tampa.
All right, so that's that completes our little It's a little deep dive, but it is a deep dive nonetheless. All right, let's get to opening statements. What do you guys think so far? Joe Schmo, good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Let's see. Nanar, this will help. I hope so. Aussie Gardner, you were off to bed, but you are a trial addict now. I know. It's a Gordon. Good to see you. It is a shallow dive. We're just putting our toes in the deep end, if you will. Sheila, that's different. Never seen a male judge with hair past his ears. Yeah. Amanda, this could be challenging. Sinbad, co-conspirators is one thing, but this seems like a different situation. Hellrider, so I might be someone in the family they wanted, but they decided to get mom, but hit the poor baby. It could be. I don't know, man. It seems like a case of mistaken identity because they were just kind of traveling. They were at a remembrance. The uncle, the mother, and Sonny. They're at a remembrance for somebody else. They're driving around, going to an after party. You know, they're just kind of driving around. They drive past the Chevron gas station. They turn around, and then these guys jump in the car and they chase them down the avenue and follow them through the U-turn and then shoot. So right now, to me, it seems like mistaken identity. It seems like there may have been, there was a car that looked similar to another possible couple guys that were involved in a shooting with another. I mean, there could have been like one of these, back and forth shootings where they shot my guy, I shoot your guy, you shoot, all this stuff. So we'll find out. I don't know that for sure. That's complete hearsay on my part, but we'll find out. We'll find out if that's what it was or not. All right. The bottom line is a little girl is no longer with us. That truly is the bottom line.
August 22nd of 2020.
And why did it happen is we'll find out. All right. So opening statements from the prosecution.
August 22nd of 2021 was supposed to be a day of celebration and remembrance of the father of Mary Harrison and Willie Brown. Instead, it turned into a night of horror and tragedy. It turned out that way because these 5 men seated here before you today hunted them down and through a coordinated and targeted attack, sprayed their car with bullets, 40 to be exact, one of which entered that back seat and pierced the heart and lung of Suni Bell, 4-year-old daughter of Mary Harrison, who was in the front passenger seat. You will hear that earlier in the day, Mary Harrison and Willie Brown had been at DeSoto Park for a celebration of their father, who had died a year earlier. You will hear that afterwards, Willie Brown and Mary Harrison were attempting to find a sort of get-together afterwards, an after-party kind of thing, happening at a cousin's salon. This cousin's salon was somewhere around 47th and Hillsborough. They didn't know the exact address. They didn't know the exact location. They just sort of had a general idea of where to go. Willie Brown was driving that day. He was driving his silver Infiniti. You'll see a lot of pictures of that car. He was driving. Mary Harrison was seated beside him in the passenger seat, and Suni Bell was in the back seat of his vehicle. They began to drive around Hillsborough and 47th. Unfortunately, that area was also where a gas station is located. It's a Chevron. It's often called the Jet. That was the former name of the gas station. At that Jet, these 5 individuals, along with a number of other people, were all hanging around. And you'll see video of this. They're all hanging around out there, doing whatever. At some point, as Willie Brown is driving around, lost basically, he notices that they're starting to pay attention to him and pointing at him. At one point, Willie Brown parks by the gas station. By the end of this trial, you become very well accustomed to this map. Okay, I'm telling you that. So what we're talking about is this location. Oops, I had it upside down. This is the chevron right here, the jet. This is 47th right here, 45th and 47th is right there. This was the area that Willie Brown was driving around looking for this salon where the people were gathering after this. At this chevron, right around this area over here, kind of towards the side of it, there's like some little garbage bins or dumpsters, and they're all hanging out right here. At a certain point, Willie Brown parks right around on this field, trying to call his cousin to find out where it is the salon is supposed to be so that he can get there. While he's sitting there at that field, he notices the people at that chevron pointing at him and looking at him. He's getting uncomfortable at this point. He's unable to reach his cousin, and it's getting late, so he decides to take Mary and her daughter home. For whatever reason, ladies and gentlemen, these men focused on that silver infinity. Willie Brown pulls out of that field and drives down 45th Street before pulling out onto Hillsborough Avenue. He passes a tow truck, and you're going to see video from across the street looking this way. This video right here, Lorenzo Garage, you'll see a number of videos from that. Pointing this way towards 45th Street. Willie Brown comes out. He can't go left here. He turns right and heads down Hillsborough Avenue, past the chevron, up to around 50th Street, where he does a U-turn to come back and head west to take Mary home, Mary and Sonny home. At that point in time, these men were arming themselves. They were gathering together, they were pointing, they were getting in cars, and they were taking off to hunt them down. Again, this is a video, ladies and gentlemen, that you're going to see many times throughout the course of this trial. You're going to see it zoomed in. You're going to see it slowed down. You're going to see video of each of the individual people and what they did and their part in all of this. This, ladies and gentlemen, is where they conspire. This is where the conspiracy begins. This is where they decide they are going to hunt down that vehicle and shoot and kill whoever is in that car. I understand, ladies and gentlemen, at first glance in that, there's a lot going on. It's hard to tell what's happening, but I promise you by the end of this trial, you will know who those individuals were. You will know their actions. You will see some of them holding firearms, including long assault rifles. You will see some of them masking themselves up the minute they hear what they're about to do. Plain as day, right there. That's where they come together with an agreement to hunt down and shoot the car of Willie Brown. And if you watch early in that video, you will see a car go by, a silver-looking car, which appears to be the same car that Willie Brown drives. They focused on that car from that moment forward. Many of them running out in the fields to take a look to see where that car is and where it's parked and what it's doing. And the minute that car pulled out of that field and drove out onto Hillsborough Avenue, heading east, these individuals jumped in 3 separate vehicles, loaded with guns, masked up, and began their pursuit. Now, ladies and gentlemen, they don't know who is in that car, or they think they may know who is in that car, but they don't know Willie Brown. They don't know Mary Harrison, and they don't know Suni Bell. Neither of those 3 have any relationship whatsoever with any of these men. They're not from around that area. That's not where they go. They don't know these men. These men don't know them. Why these men targeted that car, we're not sure. But they targeted that car. Mistaken identification, who knows? But the fact is that car was targeted. Now, there's no requirement that they know who was in the car. That's irrelevant. All that matters is that their intent was to kill whoever was in that car. That's all that matters. Whether they knew the names of the individuals, just similar to like a mass shooter or anyone else, they don't have to know the names of the individuals they're trying to kill, just that they are trying to kill. In this case, they were trying to kill. So at this point in time, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to see through a series of videos that have been put together by detectives and police officers who are involved in the investigation of this case. These videos will show, as I told you earlier, from Lorenzo's garage, it shows, and will show you Willie Brown's silver Infiniti turning out and heading down Hillsborough Avenue past the jet. You've seen from the video you just saw was from East Tampa Pawn and Gun, which is facing towards that corner of the jet. You'll also see a Chevron video that will show the 3 vehicles pulling out. Following that car as it turns around. Power Electric will be the next video you see. In Power Electric, you will see the victim's silver Infiniti coming by on the right side lane, the inside lane, the right side lane along the curb. You will see the silver Infiniti pass. You will have one angle pointing this way where you will see it coming towards you and passing. You will have another angle coming this way where you see it coming towards you and passing. And as it passes, you will notice a dark-colored Infiniti coming up behind it. Willie Brown will tell you that as he drove, he saw that car doing the same U-turn he did. He recognized it and saw it. At that point in time, he still didn't know that they were out for him, but he did notice that car do the same U-turn he did and come up behind him. That car is going at a super fast speed. You will see that. It chases up behind, and then in the distance you will see, as Willie Brown's car is just proceeding along, the darker Infiniti will catch up and brake lights will come on to match the speed of that silver Infiniti. To match the speed of Willie Brown's car. The driver of that car, ladies and gentlemen, was Samson. I will get into that in a moment. From that Power Electric, the next one we will see is from Lorenzo's again. This time, instead of the car coming this way, the car will be coming this way. It is at that moment that Infiniti, driven by Samson, is caught up to Willie Brown and begins to unleash gunfire on Willie Brown. You hear from Willie Brown that he panics. You could hear the bullets hitting his car. He saw the passenger who, by the way, is Quandarius Hammond, and I will get into that in a moment. He saw the passenger shooting at his car. He could hear the bullets hitting his car. He was panicked and scared. He made a decision that probably he regrets at this time, but in that moment and in that panic, he had thought or believed that his car had been disabled, and he jumped out and took off running, leaving his sister and niece in the car. At this point in time, Willie Brown thought they were shooting at him. He'll tell you, I thought they were shooting at me. So I took off running, and you're going to hear how he ran down this road right here, which is 45th Street. He leaves the car and goes running down 45th Street and starts knocking on people's houses in a panic. They're shooting at me. You're going to hear those gunshots, by the way. You will hear how many gunshots there were. But he will tell you, running over here, knocking on people's doors, they're shooting at me. They're shooting at me. You're going to see a video from Mike Cokerly's house. He had a video camera set up, and you'll see that he ran through the backyards and was trying to find someone to help him, but no one would help him because they're scared. They hear the gunshots, and then there's some man at their door saying, let me in, help me, I got to get away. So no one does, but they do call 911 for him. And then he stays there, Willie Brown stays there waiting for police. Now, right at this time, though, Mary Harrison, who's in the passenger seat, jumps into the driver's seat and starts driving off further down Hillsborough. By this point, the first car that Avante Samson is driving has already turned off down 40, I believe, or down one of these roads, had already turned off and headed left and was going back to the jet. But unbeknownst to Mary Harrison, there were two cars following up. The second car goes by, and it's unclear whether or not someone shot from that second car. We believe that they did, but at this point in time, no one from that second car has been charged. The third car continues pursuit, and you will see right around here that this auto upgrade videos, you will see the third car catch up, and you will observe that car firing on Mary Harrison and Suni Bell, defenseless. You will see muzzle flashes, very big muzzle flashes, clearly coming from a very large caliber gun. You will see those flashes. Boom, 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 boom. You will be hearing the gunshots. And you will see that along Hillsborough Avenue, by the time crime scene shows up, there are 40 casings scattered throughout in different groupings. And you're going to learn about those groupings. You're going to learn about the grouping of 9mm that were over here on the initial shooting. You're going to learn about the grouping over here where eventually the car crashes into a pole. Mary crashes into a pole. And you will see that around this area where you see those heavy muzzle flashes is where the rifle was shooting. The rifle coming from the passenger seat of the car driven by Jalen Bedward. The passenger seat that was occupied by Andrew Thomas. All who have been identified as getting into those vehicles. Mary crashes into the pole. She gets out and realizes that her daughter has been struck. In a panic, she runs, screaming, asking for any help she can get, anybody. And you will hear that a large number of people start to come out once these cars have cleared the area and begin to render aid to Suni Bell. They try and do CPR. They do whatever they can to try and save this little girl. But ultimately, they're not successful. Because one bullet went through her body, punctured her heart, punctured her lung, and killed her. You're going to see the vehicle. You're going to see the amount of gunshots that happened on that vehicle, the holes in that car, how many times that car was shot. You will see all of that. This, ladies and gentlemen, was a targeted attack, coordinated by by a group of individuals who were hell-bent on killing whoever was in that car. So, obviously, a police investigation begins. Suni Bell is taken to the hospital where she is pronounced deceased. You're going to hear from the medical examiner about her injury. She actually has two, one of which is a very small entrance wound, but appears to be possibly shrapnel or something maybe from the car. The medical examiner will tell you that she was pretty much not going to survive this injury no matter what, no matter how much aid they had given to her. And I will show you a photograph where you will see people there helping, trying to give help. No matter how much aid was rendered, that minute that bullet hit her, she was gone. The enemy is not going to be able to tell you what bullet it was. We're not going to sit here, ladies and gentlemen, and try and tell you that any specific one of these individuals fired the gun that killed her. What we're telling you is that they worked together as a team to make this happen. And it doesn't matter which one fired the killing shot, they all worked to make this happen. So the investigation begins, and you're going to hear a lot of evidence from this crime scene. Again, riddled with casings, up and down. And we will have crime scene diagrams that will show you where each of the casings was located. At least 4 different firearms were used in this case. That much we do know. So detectives and law enforcement began gathering these videos that we discussed, one of which is the Chevron video. So in that video, in the East Tampa Pond video, they notice all of this. They see these individuals reacting to the car that they believe is the car that Willie Brown was driving. They see these individuals then leaving the minute Willie Brown goes by. And they're able to track these vehicles as they come by and eventually unload on Willie Brown's car. So the detectives start to identify the individuals involved. One of the first individuals they identify is this man right here, closest to you, Bedward. They identify him as the driver of the third vehicle, the Chrysler 300. They eventually meet with Mr. Bedward. They show Mr. Bedward the video you just saw, and he identifies himself. He says, yeah, that's me. At one point in the video, I'm not sure if you saw it, someone kind of runs in and falls to the ground. That's Bedward. He identifies himself and says, yeah, I tripped on some rebar. At one point in this video, Bedward can be seen holding a very long assault type rifle. He's confronted with that and admits, yeah, that's my gun. I was posting up. Everyone was yelling about the car. So I posted up with my rifle. And you will see, when you watch some of these zoomed in and slowed down, you will see the silhouette, basically, at certain points when he's turning, of the rifle in his hand. And he admits that was his rifle. He admits everything, admits getting in the car, admits driving off with all of them, but then says, but I never did a U-turn. I never went back. Ladies and gentlemen, his cell phone and casings found at that scene prove that he's lying. He did, in fact, go back. He did, in fact, make that U-turn, and he was, in fact, the car, the third vehicle that unleashed on Willie Brown's car at that spot. And we know this because of the cell phone evidence that shows him in that area right around that time. We know this because another one of the passengers in his car, we were able to obtain the gun. And that gun matched some of the casings that were found at that scene. The front seat passenger in that car was Andrew Thompson. Andrew Thompson seated way back there, kind of towards the right. That's Andrew Thompson. He was in the video, kind of towards the front, like with some checkered black and white shorts. Again, we're going to show you videos where we zoom in on them so you have a better understanding of their part of it. He's also the individual who pulls off his white t-shirt and wraps it around his face as a mask before they take off. Andrew Thompson gets in the passenger side of the car driven by Jalen Bedward. The passenger side, where, ladies and gentlemen, you will see the very large muzzle flashes coming from that vehicle as it is passing Mary Harrison in the Infiniti. Andrew Thompson shot that rifle at that car. He was in that passenger seat. He identified himself on video at that Chevron. That was him firing that gun. And where that big gun was firing is where we find the rifle cases, all right in this area here, just near where she eventually crashes. But there's also two other casings that are found there from a 9mm. Right in that exact same spot, right by the rifle casings. A smaller gun. Those rifle casings belonged to the third passenger, or the other passenger in that car. So we had Jalen Bedward driving, Andrew Thompson is the front seat passenger, and in the back seat, carrying a 9mm, was James Densson. You see the cut in the middle over here in the corner. James Densson the fourth. He had a firearm with him as well. And he identifies himself from that Chevron video. And he identifies himself getting into the back seat of the car driven by Jalen Bedward. So there's no doubt, ladies and gentlemen, that it was Jalen Bedward who drove that car, because the people in his car left evidence right there at the scene. James Densson is talking to the police and tells them that he has a baby, a Taurus gun, that he never lets out of his sight. So they ask him, where is that gun? Oh, I pawned it because I needed some money. Where did he pawn it? I can't make this up, right here at East Tampa Pawn, where we got the video. So what do detectives do? They go right back to East Tampa Pawn, and sure enough, there's a Taurus 9mm gun that he pawned with a pawn ticket and his thumbprint on the pawn slip. They send it to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, who are able to make comparisons between casings and determine whether or not a casing was fired from a particular gun. And they found two casings right around this spot here belonging to the gun that James Densson says he never lets out of his sight. That was the third vehicle. And all of that happened again right in this area. The first vehicle, which sends out the initial shots to where Willie Brown thinks the car's disabled and has to jump out. That vehicle was driven by Zavante Samson, who's seated right there, directly in front of you, facing you, with the large dreads. That is Zavante Samson. He was the driver of the first vehicle, a darker colored Infiniti. Again, you will see that in some of the videos. You saw that in the video there. It was the one with the brake lights that you were looking at the back of. That's the car that Zavante Samson gets in. That's the car he drives. He has one passenger with him, Quandarius Hammond. Zavante Samson admits to getting in that car, admits to driving that car, admits that on that video, that's him getting in the driver's seat of that vehicle. But Zavante Samson does not admit that he made the U-turn. He says he continues on. Again, cell phone and video evidence prove that it's not the case at all. You will also know that Zavante Samson, the driver of Quandarius Hammond, who says he drove off and that was it, he left, headed eastbound on Hillsborough, that was it. Well, you will watch another video from that East Tampa Pawn that's going to show just a minute or two after the shooting, he's pulling back in to that Chevron, where he lets out his passenger, Quandarius Hammond, who goes behind a dumpster, grabs a bag, and then they walk back to these apartments, or he walked back to these apartments where Savante Samson drives around and parks. He didn't leave. He didn't go eastbound. We could follow that car, and we track that car back through some of these back roads through other videos. Because Savante Samson didn't keep on going. He stayed, he turned around and he shot, or he had his passenger shoot at Willie Brown's car. And again, from that power electric, you will see how as that car is passing at a very fast speed to catch up, you watch those brake lights and you will see the brake lights on Savante Samson's Infiniti slow down, come on, to basically match the speed of Willie Brown's car. He knew what was going to happen, and he set it up and he got his passenger there so that his passenger could unleash on it. Speaking of his passenger, that is our final person here, Quandarius Hammond. He's kind of back there in the corner. Quandarius Hammond was the passenger of this vehicle. He identifies himself in the video. Again, all five of them admit that is them in that video at that Chevron on that day. But Quandarius Hammond says, "Oh, yeah, that's me getting in there." But when we drove off, he dropped me off like right on the corner there, and I walked back and my girlfriend came and picked me up. Again, we knew from cell phone evidence and from the later video that shows him coming back with Savante Samson and being dropped off where he grabs the bag behind the dumpster, that was not true. He lied. And in fact, you'll hear a jail phone call with his girlfriend where she says, "I can't say that because I was in St. Pete." So these individuals are arrested, search warrants are obtained. You will hear about different searches that are conducted of both the vehicles as well as their houses. You will see the clothes that are found that match the clothes they were wearing on that day. Phones are searched as well. And you're going to see some evidence that comes from the phone belonging to Quandarius Hammond. It will show him in the clothes that you'll see him wearing throughout the day at the Chevron. You will also see him holding a gun. You will see that he did some searches while after this occurred, including 4-year-old shot in Tampa video footage. Other phones were collected. In fact, all of them were. Some were completely wiped out to factory reset, so there was no evidence obtained from those particular phones. Some call detail records, which you're going to hear about, were obtained, which shows that there was, in fact, prior to and afterwards, communication between all of these individuals via phone. And you're also going to hear from an expert regarding cell tower technology and advanced timing data that will tell you and explain to you how cell phones can often, because they communicate with towers, can often give location data. Sometimes it's very just kind of open-ended, like a B that will show, oh, it's somewhere in this neighborhood by the B coming out that way from the cell tower. But sometimes with what's called timing advanced records, they're able to use different, and it's usually with just T-Mobile, which 4 of these 5 individuals had T-Mobile. It's able to give you almost a pinpoint spot at a specific location of where that phone is. It's not quite exact, but it's very close. The detective will tell you that with time in advance records, if he was trying to find a phone, he would look at that spot and he would start somewhere there and it would be somewhere around there. Well, you're going to hear that those time in advance records will show that at least 3 of the 4 phones dots are almost right there where the shooting was taking place at the time of the shooting. Not heading eastbound away from Hillsborough or down Hillsborough away from the scene. Right there at the time of the shooting. The only one that's different, really, is Andrew Thompson's, because he had AT&T. And AT&T, you're going to hear from the detective, does not give us quite a good location reference. It does show him in kind of the general area of that Chevron area just after the shooting, but it doesn't give any pinpoint accuracy like the others do. But it doesn't matter because Jalen Bedward does, and we know that Andrew Thompson was in that car, and we know that James Densson was in that car because he left the bullet casings there that matched his gun. This is overwhelming evidence, ladies and gentlemen. Not circumstantial. This is direct evidence. The casings, direct evidence. These videos, direct evidence. Cell site results, direct evidence. All point to these 5 individuals being involved in this. All the evidence, ladies and gentlemen, tells you loud and clear how these 5 men conspired, teamed up, and worked together to hunt down and kill Suni Bell and anyone else who happened to be in that car. And at the conclusion of this case, the state is confident you will find each of these gentlemen guilty as charged on all counts. Thank you.
All right, so that is the state's opening. So let's review what we heard before we go on to defense opening. And we can come over here. So we get their names. All right. So the state I'll get his name in a moment. Okay, so he starts out with a day of remembrance. Hold on a sec. He starts out with a day of remembrance. These 5 men hunted them down. There were 40 bullets, or more than 40 bullets, as he said, 40 casings. One hit Suni in the heart, who was in the back seat. John Terry. Okay, cool. All right, so John Terry. Let me make his name. So state's opening. State's opening, John Terry. One hit Suni in the heart. She was in the back seat. So then he talks about Mary Harrison and Willie Brown. So Willie Brown was the driver. Mary Harrison was in the passenger seat. They are brother and sister. Willie Brown's the driver. Mary Harrison is passenger seat. Mary is the mother of Suni. So they were, all 3 of them were at a park for their father who had passed away the previous year. Then they were going to go to a cousin's salon for an after remembrance event party. So they didn't know the exact address. So they're kind of driving around. Willie was driving a silver Infiniti. Mary was in the passenger seat. Suni's in the back seat. So they're at Hillsborough and 47th. Then there's a Chevron gas station. And there's a bunch of guys hanging out. And he says, these 5 guys were hanging out with a bunch of other guys. So Willie's lost and he sees these guys pointing at him. So he parks at the gas station. He parks actually in a field. And he's calling his cousin and he sees them pointing at him and he gets uncomfortable. So he says it's getting late. He wants to get the girls home. He wants to get his sister and his niece home. So the men are focused on the Infiniti. So he drives down 45th Street onto Hillsborough. He passes a tow truck. He turns right onto Hillsborough. So here's the gas station. He turns right on to Hillsborough. He makes a U-turn. So he goes down Hillsborough, makes a U-turn. He's coming back. He wants to take Mary and Suni home. So in the meantime, the state says the men are arming themselves, getting in cars to hunt them down. He says they begin to conspire to hunt them down and to shoot into the car. So then this is where he shows the video of the gas station. And you see at least 10 guys. I counted at least 10, maybe 15, possibly more, but at least I counted at least 10 guys. Well, we know 5 of them jumped in the car. So there's at least, probably 15. And then he says there's a lot going on, but you will know the defendant soon. He says they mask up and they hunt down the car. So he uses hunt a lot. He wants to really, really hammer that home, hunt. And we saw a guy with the he takes off his shirt, puts it around his face, so he essentially he masks up. So Mr. Terry says, was this a case of mistaken identity? Who knows? He says it doesn't matter. He says you don't need to know that, like a mass shooter. They don't need to know who these people are. I should say the people that are involved, they don't need to know, just like a mass shooter. So Willie makes a U-turn, and then we see a dark-colored Infiniti. So the dark car, he's got it. So there's all these Infinitis, right? There's a silver Infiniti, there's a darker colored Infiniti, probably a dark gray, light silver to dark gray, and then there's also a Chrysler involved as well. We'll get to that later. So Willie makes a U-turn and he sees this dark-colored Infiniti. So this is a 3-lane, right? It's 3 lanes on either side with something in between, with a barrier in between. And I'll once we get into defense, I'll get a screenshot and I'll pull it up. So you got 3 lanes, big highway, right? I mean, it's not a highway, but it's pretty big. You could probably go, 45, 50 on this, but I'll find out once I'm done here. But so, he makes a U-turn, and then he sees this car, and it's because it's late. I don't know the exact time yet, but it looks like it's, into the evening, 8, 9, 10 o'clock. And he sees this other car coming, he's going eastbound or westbound. I'm not sure which, northbound, whatever it is. The other car is coming the other way. That car does a U-turn, speeds up, catches up to them, matches the speed, and that's Javante Samson. He's the driver of that car. So that's car 1. So we got Samson and Hammond, right? So we got Quandarius Hammond and Javante Samson. So Samson's the driver, Hammond is in front. So that's car 1. So Samson catches Willie, and the car starts to unleash gunfire. So he says, Willie panics. He says he thought his car was being disabled, so he jumps out, he takes off running, leaving his sister and niece. Not the best look, but that's what he does. Maybe he's going off to, he thought they were shooting at him, so he's trying to get away. He thought maybe if he runs away, they'll chase after him and they'll leave his sister and niece alone. So he runs to the neighbors. They're shooting at me. So the neighbors, rightfully so, don't want to get involved, but so they call 911. Not sure why he didn't call, but maybe we'll find that out later. So Mary is in the passenger seat. That's Sonny's mom. She jumps into the driver's seat and she takes off. So Samson turns around. So he drives by, he turns around and he comes back. So there's another 2 cars that do a drive-by, and it's unclear if there's more shots, but no one from car 2 has been charged. That's what's really weird. So there's 40 casings, there's 3 cars, but only 2 cars have been identified as having shooters in there. Why that car 2 isn't involved, don't know, but they're not, or they are involved, but I don't know why they're not being charged either. So car 3 catches Mary's car, the victim's car, if you will, and they fire on Mary and Sonny. And he says you'll see muzzle flashes, you'll hear the gunshots. He says there's over 40 casings, and they're in groups. So there's a 9mm, which was the initial shooting. Then Mary crashes, and then you'll find rifle casings. So Bedward was driving that one. So car 3 is Jalen Bedward. Thompson is in the passenger seat. So that's Andrew Thompson. And then Densson is in the back. So that's James Densson. So we've got car 1, Samson driving, Hammond in the front. Car 3, Bedward driving, Thompson in the front with a rifle. Densson is in the back. So Mary, she runs out. She's screaming. People come. They try to save Sonny. Unfortunately, one bullet. So they found 40 casings, but only 1 bullet actually found Sonny. Went through her heart, went through her lung, pretty much killed her within seconds. So I see a lot of you are asking the question. I'm the same way. 40 casings and only sadly one little girl is gone. I'm shocked that there's not more people. Mary and Willie, that they escaped. So So he said, you'll see the vehicle in the bullet holes. He calls it a targeted attack, coordinated by a group of individuals hell-bent on killing whoever was in that car. He says Sonny has 2 wounds. He says maybe the other one was shrapnel. The ME will say there was no saving Sonny. And the ME won't say which bullet, shot her and who was the one, who can we actually pin this on? But he says, we can't tell you whose bullet it was, but we know that they all worked together to make this happen. So 4 different firearms were used, 4 different ones. So far, I've only heard a 9mm and a rifle. So there's still 2 more out there. So law enforcement, they start gathering videos. They look at the Chevron video. They see the guys react, and we see it. Everybody's like, all of a sudden they're kind of hanging out, milling about. And then all of a sudden everybody just like starts jumping around, right? And they all jump in the car. It's like a bunch of bees or something, or ants. So then they leave as Willie goes by. So somebody must have said, hey, that car is the one that did this. Because why else would somebody recognized that car as something that harmed or did wrong to those guys? Because why else would you just jump in a car and randomly chase after another car and shoot them? Right? That makes no sense. So somebody pinned out that car. Somebody said, hey, that's the car that did something to us and we need to go get them. So let's see. Bedward was the driver of car 3. So he had a Chrysler 300. And law enforcement meets up with him and he identifies himself. He's the one that tripped. I remember I saw somebody fall on the ground. It was him. He said, yeah, I tripped on some rebar. So you see him holding a long assault rifle. He admits he posted up with his rifle. He says his defense now is going to be he never made that U-turn. So he's admitting that he had the gun, he had the rifle, had the firearm, but he's saying he never made that U-turn. So he jumps in the car, goes speeding off, but he never made that U-turn. But his cell phone data and the video will show that he's lying, according to the state. Then we have Andrew Thompson. He was the passenger, right? So Thompson's in car 3 with Bedward driving. So Thompson had checkered black and white shorts. He pulls off his shirt and he masks his face up. So Thompson is in car 3. He's the one that masks up. That's Andrew Thompson. He has the rifle. So you see large muzzle flashes from Thompson as they drive by the crashed car. He IDs himself too. So that's 2 people now that have identified themselves, that they were there, and yes, they did that. So what's his deal? So Densson, who is in the back, so car 3, we got Bedward driving, Thompson's in the front with the mask on, with the rifle, and then we have Densson, he's in the back. There's 2 more casings from 9mm. So Densson says he has a small gun that he pawned at the local pawn shop, but casings from that same gun are found. So that pretty much shows that he's lying, according to the state. Then we have Samson. Samson was driving car 1. He admits to getting in the car, but he says he didn't make a U-turn. Then I have this, I wrote down Samson lies, says he got out of the car and walked back. I think that's Thompson. Not Samson. I think my ears didn't go with me, and then I rewound to see the closed captioning. I think that's Thompson said he got out of the car when the car made the U-turn. So both drivers said they didn't make the U-turn. And Thompson says he got out of the car, not sure when he got out of the car. If they never made the U-turns, he must have got out in the car. He said he walked back. His girlfriend came to get him, but there's a jail call that his girlfriend was in St. Pete. So, allegedly, yes, allegedly, exactly. Allegedly. All of this was allegedly. Nothing is proven yet. Nothing is proven. This is all allegedly. All right. So before we get on to the defense, what do you guys... Samson says he did, but so does Thompson. Okay, so Samson did say that. Okay, maybe so Samson So Samson says he doesn't make a U-turn. He says he got out of the car and walked back. But apparently so does Thompson, so I guess they both say that. All right. Ellen, many details. Well, when you have 5 defendants, yeah, you're gonna have a lot of stories. Barry, poor little girl, was 4, and this was 4 years ago. Yeah, 2021. Yep, she'd be in 2nd grade. She'd be 8 years old. Yeah, she'd be 8 years old. Deb says, totally tragic. I feel especially for Sonny's family and friends and community. I know. Linda, I appreciate it, but I may bow out of this case. No problem. I get it. I agree it was the wrong people and Sonny paid the price. Yeah, it seems like they felt that whoever was driving that Infiniti did them wrong, because why would you stop what you're doing, hanging out with your buddies? I'm assuming they're buddies. You're hanging out with these people. Again, I'm assuming they're friends. You stop what you're doing, and again, I'm assuming you're having fun, because if you're hanging out with your friends, probably you're having fun. Who knows what they were doing, hanging out, talking, listening to music, whatever, having fun, I would think. Why would you stop that, get in a car, chase after another car, and shoot into it, right? Makes no sense. Seems kind of random. Why that car? Why not another car? So initially, I'm kind of thinking maybe they identified that car as a car that was part of somebody else that maybe said some bad words or did something bad to somebody in this group. So they're like, maybe it was payback. Maybe they thought they were getting payback on somebody. So, Amanda, why can't they say which bullet? You would think that they would be able to tell by the size, right? If it was a small bullet versus a large bullet. You would think that they would be able to tell that. It's a good question. It's also impulsive behavior, right? Very impulsive behavior. Yeah, I mean, of course. Yeah, you would think that they would be able to tell by the size of the bullet. But we'll have to hear from the ME. That's, for me, it's always, to me, the ME's testimony is always very telling. I always like to hear from the ME because that tells the story. The 911 call, medical examiners, and of course, video surveillance always helps. But I always like to hear from the medical examiner because we have a lot of we have a lot of questions, and the medical examiner will give us those answers. All right, so next up, we are going to hear from the defense. This is going to be Javante Samson's lawyer. So this is Samson's lawyer, and let's check this out.
May it please the court. Mr. Terry, Ms. Ismer, Ms. Bonte, co-counsel, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. If you might remember, my name is Brian Gonzalez, and along with my investigator, Billy Lane, who's sitting at the table, we represent Javante Samson. As you know, Mr. Samson has been charged with premeditated first-degree murder, 2 counts of attempted premeditated first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, and shooting into a vehicle. He's charged with the other co-defendants that are seated at the table behind us, that being Quandarius Hammond, Jalen Bedward, Andrew Thompson, and James Densson. As Mr. Terry told you on August 22nd, 2021, it's alleged that multiple vehicles shot into a vehicle driven by Willie Brown, occupied by Mary Harrison in the front passenger seat, and Suni Bell in the back seat. I think the evidence will indicate to you that Suni Bell was not restrained or in a car seat of any kind, and certainly was in the back seat at some portion of that back seat during the course of the vehicle's travel. As a result of the gunfire from one of the firearms in one of the vehicles, Suni Bell was killed. Zavante Samson has continued or has contended from day one that he's not guilty of committing any of the offenses that he's charged with, that he did not, and you should know, he did not discharge a firearm. He's not alleged to have discharged a firearm. He's not alleged to have possessed a firearm. That he had nothing to do with causing the death of Suni Bell or the attempted murders of Mary Harrison and Willie Brown. The story here is in the details, ladies and gentlemen. Certainly there is going to be, I suspect, a great deal of evidence about where these people were, the defendants, where the victims were, where cars were, how they traveled. I anticipate that there will be a wholly insufficient lack of evidence that will be presented by the state to convince you that Zavante Samson is criminally responsible for premeditated murder, premeditated attempted murder in the first degree, and conspiracy. Pay close attention to not what the state can show you, but what they can't show you, in attempt to approve or to prove the elements of each and every one of the offenses that Mr. Samson is charged with. I would ask you to determine what evidence the state provides you, or who will testify that Zavante Samson made an agreement with anyone to intend that a first-degree murder, an attempted first-degree murder, took place or be committed, and how Zavante Samson intended to assist someone or another person to actually commit that murder or attempted first-degree murder. This is a prosecution that lies in the hands of circumstantial evidence. I know Mr. Terry told you there is a number of evidence that will be submitted for your review that is direct. Yes, it's direct evidence that there's a video showing that there are people at the Chevron. Yes, it's direct evidence that they show a video with cars driving down the street. Yes, there is direct evidence in this case, but essentially, I don't believe you're going to hear an admission to a crime by Zavante Samson. There's going to be no eyewitness that implicates him directly in any of the offenses for which he's charged. And remember that things that lead you to other things are very, very dangerous as you digest this evidence and as you deliberate to determine what Zavante Samson did that constitutes a crime. In order to find somebody guilty, as we talked about, of any crime based on circumstantial evidence, you must preclude or eliminate any hypothesis of innocence. Do not take that leap without a foundation to do so. The central issue with respect to this case centers around, first, whether Zavante Samson conspired with any defendant to commit these crimes. I expect that the court will instruct you that to prove a conspiracy, the state must prove that the intent of Zavante Samson was that the offense of premeditated first-degree murder would be committed, and also that Zavante Samson agreed, conspired, combined, or confederated with his co-defendants to cause this first-degree murder to be committed by them, by one of them, or by some of them. I counted just generally during the course of the state's opening statement that Mr. Terry used the word they 17 times. I anticipate that there's going to be a lot of statements that are centered around they did this or they did that during the balance of the next couple of weeks. You'll need to rely on the evidence to separate they from Zavante Samson and what he did. Remember that every defendant, Quandarius Hammond, Andrew Thompson, Jalen Bedward, James Densson, they're all charged with the most serious offenses that we have. As you listen to the evidence this week, keep in mind that these defendants here sit in one trial, but they're in fact 5 individuals. Now, I understand you will have to determine whether they are principals and whether they conspired. But what one or some may be guilty of, others, in particular, Zavante Samson, may not be guilty of. You determine if, as Mr. Terry says, there is overwhelming evidence against Zavante Samson. What he told you in opening statement essentially is that he knows what Mr. Samson was thinking. He knows what Mr. Samson was saying. Mr. Terry thinks he knows what Mr. Samson was doing. Make him prove those things to you by way of evidence. Because certainly what I say and what Mr. Terry says is not evidence. It's also going to be your job to determine whether Zavante Samson was a principal to the crimes committed by one or more of the other defendants. I believe that the evidence will show that he's not a principal. I believe that the court will instruct you that in order for Zavante Samson to be criminally responsible for the act of another, the state must prove that he intended the crime to occur and that he did some act or said something that was intended and that did incite, cause, encourage, assist, or advise another person to actually commit the crime. Okay? That's what makes him a principal, because he didn't carry a gun and he didn't discharge a gun. If the state meets that burden, then the defendant must be treated as anyone else that had done all of the things that were alleged. In this case, the state must prove that Zavante Samson intended that this killing occurred, although he doesn't have to be present when it happens. I believe that during the course of the week, you're going to hear from a number of police officers and detectives from the Tampa Police Department, some that secured the scene, some that conducted interviews, some that sought evidence at various places, video from various places. A key member of that team is Detective Chris Saleha, the lead detective in this case. I anticipate that you'll hear also from crime scene technicians that took photographs and collected casings and other items of evidence from the scene, from the search warrants, from the vehicles. Please pay close attention to what evidence and where it was located, including distances, as Mr. Terry has suggested to you, from locations of vehicles involved in this shooting. There are 3 vehicles identified. I also expect, as Mr. Terry has indicated to you, that you'll see a number of videos beginning with the congregation at the Chevron gas station, which you've already seen a portion of, and others along the route that was taken by various vehicles that are involved in this case. I expect the quality of some of those videos to be marginal. I expect the quality of others to be very, very good. Each of them tells a piece of the story. And certainly it is, in and of itself, direct evidence. But you have to look closely, and I implore you to take each one of these videos exactly for what they are worth. Focus on these videos, ladies and gentlemen, very intensely on what they don't show you. Mr. Terry's talked about what they do show you. But what is just as important, if not more important, surely as it relates to Zavante Samson, is what they don't show you. As Mr. Terry mentioned, we believe that you're going to hear testimony from Detective Saleha that on September 30th, 2022, Mr. Samson was arrested and provided a statement where he was untruthful about the entirety of his knowledge and what occurred on August 21st, 2022, and the part that he played. It'll be your job as you listen or as he testifies to this statement by Mr. Samson to consider the reasons why Mr. Samson would say the things he said and what he would tell Detective Saleha immediately after he was being arrested for premeditated first-degree murder and attempted premeditated first-degree murder, as well as conspiracy to join the others in the commission of a first-degree murder. Remember, as the weeks go on, and I say that not meaning weeks and weeks and weeks, but during the course of the testimony that will be elicited during this trial, that you are the judges of the credibility of the witnesses in this case. I believe that critical evidence will come from the testimony of two of the victims, Mary Harrison and Willie Brown. She's also known as Bree. You might hear her referred to as Bree. It's up to you, ladies and gentlemen, to determine why Willie Brown and Mary Harrison were in the area of the East Hillsborough Avenue neighborhood at approximately 9 p.m. on August 22nd of 2021, and what part they played. You have to determine what Willie Brown's motivation for being there was. You have to determine, and I believe the evidence will indicate to you that something is amiss, ladies and gentlemen, with someone being less than candid about why, where, and when, and what was the purpose of their presence there. Please listen carefully to their testimony and any inconsistencies that arise, because inconsistencies are evidence too. It causes you to determine the credibility of what someone is saying, because the story is in the details in this case. It's not solely rooted in the videos that you will see. I'd only suggest and ask you to please keep an open mind during the course of this trial, that you listen and you weigh the evidence as it comes from the witness stand in the form of testimony from the witnesses. You judge their credibility, all of them. And any consistencies that I believe will become apparent during the course of that testimony, along with the admitted evidence by way of documents, by way of pictures, by way of videos. You owe this to yourselves. You certainly owe it to Suni Bell's family. And as importantly, you owe it to Zavante Samson. I'd like to briefly talk to you about a couple of things that we went over previously. First, the presumption of innocence. Remember that Zavante Samson is cloaked with that presumption of innocence throughout the course of these proceedings until that presumption has been overcome by evidence. He's not compelled to become a witness in this case. He need not prove anything to you. You promise me that you would not hold that against them and wonder why. On the other hand, if he were to choose to make himself a witness in this case, you also told me that you would give him the same credence that you would give any other witness that takes the stand. Secondly, we talked about the burden of proof. Remember that Mr. Samson is charged in one indictment, one charging document that in and of itself is not evidence, with multiple crimes. And each one of those crimes has elements that must be proven by the state of Florida before you can find someone guilty of that particular crime. 2 out of 3 is not sufficient. 1 out of 2 is not sufficient. It has to be a clean sweep, ladies and gentlemen. And as part of that clean sweep, you understand that reasonable doubt is the gravamen of our judicial system. That if we were to bring you 2 conceivable theories in this particular case, one that would suggest that Mr. Samson's guilty, another one that suggests that Mr. Samson is innocent, that's the nature of reasonable doubt. That's not a speculative doubt. That's not a forced doubt. I know that after hearing the evidence in this case and giving us the same undivided attention that you have given us thus far, that you'll find that Mr. Samson did not conspire with any defendant in this case to commit a first-degree murder, premeditated, attempted murders in the first degree, premeditated, or did he shoot into an occupied vehicle? I believe the evidence is going to be crystal clear that Zavante Samson was not a principal in this case, that there will be no evidence to indicate that he was a principal in this case. He did not intend for a murder or an attempted murder to occur. He did not do any act intentionally or say something that caused someone other than himself to commit a murder or an attempted murder. Listen to the evidence very carefully, weigh it, and again, be very wary of what the state of Florida cannot show you. Thank you.
Mr. Hernandez?
Yes,
sir.
Counsel. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. If I could reintroduce myself, my name is Danny Hernandez, and I represent Mr. Jalen Bedward, who's seated next to me. I want to begin by thanking you very much for your service. I know it's an intrusion into your personal and business activities, but you're an essential part of our judicial system. We can't have jury trials like we have in this country, which is unique in this country, without people like yourselves that are able and willing to provide your attention and your service. I also want to begin by reminding you, I think Mr. Gonzalez already mentioned it, everything that Mr. Terry said on behalf of the state of Florida in their opening statement is not evidence. And for that matter, none of what the attorneys are saying, the defense attorneys are saying, it's not evidence. But remember that the entire burden of proof is on the state of Florida. And what you are to consider is only the evidence that's presented during the course of the trial, not what Mr. Terry is suggesting in his opening statements. The purpose, though, of the opening statements is to give you an idea of what we believe that the evidence will show or not show. I believe the evidence in this case will show that my client, Jalen Bedward, is not guilty. And there's no question that you're going to hear a lot of testimony, and some of it is crime scene technicians talking about different things that they saw at the scene of the shooting, a collection of evidence, things of that nature. But the overriding thing that I know is part of this case is that there's a horrible tragedy that occurred in the death of Suni Bell, a 4-year-old child. And as we talked about in jury selection, you are being asked to set aside, as your responsibility as jurors is to set aside any feelings of that in determining whether or not the state has proven their case beyond a reasonable doubt as to each separate defendant. I believe the evidence is going to show the following, that Mr. Bedward was merely present at the scene of this shooting. He was with his friends, the co-defendants. He was at the scene when the shooting took place, but did not participate in any way. I believe the evidence is going to show that Mr. Bedward did not conspire to commit any crime. He is not a principal to first-degree murder. The evidence is going to show, I believe, that Mr. Bedward had no knowledge of anything illegal or violent that was going to occur. And I believe the evidence will show that there is no evidence of any willful ignorance on behalf of Mr. Bedward. Now, the evidence is going to show, and Mr. Terry already mentioned it, is that my client, Mr. Bedward, did in fact own and possess and had a firearm in his car. He is a legal owner of that weapon. And the evidence is going to show that he never fired that firearm. He cooperated fully with the police. He identified himself as the owner and driver of the Chrysler 300. He admitted he was present at the scene driving his car. He provided cell phone information and actually handed over his cell phone to the police. He consented to the search of his apartment, having nothing to hide. He denied any involvement in the shooting and does not know who shot or how it happened. I believe the evidence is going to show that the surveillance video is consistent with Mr. Bedward being merely present at the scene. Apparently, and you'll hear of the evidence, there was a muzzle flash coming somewhere from the passenger side. I believe the evidence is going to show that Mr. Bedward was unaware, he saw trouble, and as the driver of that vehicle, his only focus was getting the heck out of there. I submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, that if you consider what we talked about during jury selection, that reasonable doubt can come from the evidence. It can also come from conflict in evidence, and it can also come from lack of evidence. And I believe that considering those two things, those three things, evidence, lack of evidence, and conflict in evidence, that the only just verdict in this case on behalf of Mr. Bedward, as to all counts, is a verdict of not guilty. Now, before I conclude, I do have two major requests of you. I already referred to the tragic death of Suni Bell. Please, I ask you, do not let sympathy drive any of your evaluation of the state's case. No question, this was a horrific tragedy, but there can never be a conclusion of, well, because of that, someone has to pay. There is no attempt to downplay what happened to this poor child. But that does not mean that the state has sufficient evidence, proof beyond a reasonable doubt, that my client is guilty of what he's accused of. And I believe the evidence will show that they do not have that evidence. And my second request is, please do not speculate. The defendant, Mr. Bedward, never fired his firearm. There is going to be no proof that showing knowledge of any illegal activity or criminal intent by Mr. Bedward. You must not conclude that Mr. Bedward had knowledge or criminal intent through association with others, or being merely present at the scene of a shooting. And on the same line as echoing what Mr. Gonzalez said, there can't be conclusions based on they. References to they is not evidence that Mr. Bedward, specifically Mr. Bedward, had involvement, criminal involvement in this shooting. And if I believe that if you grant my request, that the only just and correct verdict is a verdict of not guilty as to Mr. Bedward. Thank you.
Mr. Fischetti.
Good morning, Aaron. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And base court counsel. Ladies and gentlemen, the first thing that the state is asking you to find my client, James Densson, seated in the black jacket in the corner over there, is the murder of Suni Bell. And I think it's helpful to take a look at the elements of the offense in order to kind of give us a guide for what we're going to be looking at during the course of our time together. The first thing that they have to show is that her death was caused by the criminal act of James Densson. So it's the very first thing that they're going to have to show in order to show that he's guilty of first-degree premeditated murder. The second thing that they're going to have to show based on that premeditation is that you're going to have to find beyond a reasonable doubt that based on the circumstances of the killing and the conduct of James Densson, that death resulted of Suni Bell. Okay, so I think it's important here, as some of the other attorneys have touched on, to note that separate crimes have been charged against each of the defendants here. The grouping of this trial is done for efficiency. It's done for convenience, but that doesn't mean that any of the constitutional rights that my client James Densson has should be waived based on that convenience, based on that efficiency, based on that economy. And you have to decide whether or not my client is guilty or not guilty based only on his conduct. And the conduct of other persons involved in this case should not affect your verdict as to James Densson. The second charge of conspiracy that the state has talked about in saying that these people were working together, okay? The state, as it presents its evidence today, must prove an intent to kill on behalf of James Densson as part of that conspiracy. An intent to kill on behalf of my client. So they can't transfer the intent of somebody else on him if he did not intend that act to occur. That's where the conspiracy portion of this is. So let's talk about this when we're talking about the circumstances of the killing, when we're talking about the conduct of the accused. So those are the two phrases that I'm going to ask you to keep in mind during the presentation of the state's evidence. The circumstances of the killing and the conduct of the accused, in this situation being James Densson. So let's talk about the circumstances of the killing. You've seen some of the previews of the video. You're going to see a lot more evidence. But let's talk about which car. Okay, they're going to allege that he was in the third vehicle, not the first one, not the second, not the third. Let's talk about the timing of those vehicles as they interact with Willie Brown, as they interact with the vehicle containing Mary Harrison and Suni Bell. Let's talk about a rifle versus a handgun. The state's going to allege that there is a handgun that was in the possession of James Densson. Let's talk about which handgun, because there are going to be multiple handguns that are discussed. But essentially, if the state brings in evidence as they have promised, they're going to say that there are two shots that are made by James Densson. So I'm going to ask you to look at the timeline of those shots and where they are. And I will submit to you that the shell casings, 2 of them, just 2 shots from James Denson's 9mm Taurus that he purchased himself, that he had a concealed weapons permit for. Those 2 shots, those 2 shell casings are going to be located to the east of where the vehicle containing Suni Bell and Mary Harrison, and originally driven by Willie Brown, was located, crashed against the telephone pole. So those shots, those 2 shell casings, are going to be almost the last in the timeline as we go ahead and go through the timing of this. Okay, so it's going to be after the shots from the first car. It's going to be, for the most part, after the discharges from the assault rifle. It's important when you look at where those casings were discovered, as it talks about the timing of the events and the people who are interacting with. Because as we're going east on Hillsborough, okay, the first street that we're going to be at is 45th. Okay, 45th is going to be important because that's the street that Willie Brown has already been shot at. He has already exited his vehicle, which is still in motion, and he actually takes off north on 45th into the neighborhood over there. And I believe you're going to see from the surveillance video, and you're going to see from Mr. Brown, that there's actually shots being fired at him in this area. So it would be reasonable to infer from that evidence that the persons who are shooting at Willie Brown, okay, either had to fire on his vehicle before it got to 45th, or be firing at his person as he's running down 45th, and that evidence of that shooting would be located in that area. As it after 43rd, to the east of 43rd, that's where the Infiniti occupied by Mary Harrison and Suni Bell was finally located. And it's important to say that there will not be one person that will be able to come into court during this trial and say which handgun or rifle, which firearm actually struck Suni Bell. Okay, which projectile from which handgun. Nobody's going to be able to say that. Nobody's going to be able to say that this gun is responsible for her killing. And as far as some of the other evidence involved, you're not going to have anybody that's going to be able to say that the firearm carried by James Densson was responsible for any of the holes, any of the strikes, any of the damage to the car, or anything as it relates to that Infiniti. Nobody can tell you the caliber of the bullets, the style of the firearm, or the person that's responsible for many of these shots. So I want you to take a look at that, and then I want you to take a look at the conduct of the accused. So we have the circumstances of the killing and the conduct of the accused. The state is asking you to infer that, again, these people are working together. They masked up. I can't hear anybody say that James Densson took any steps to conceal himself in any way on this night. That they armed themselves. No, he didn't go running and find something somewhere else. Again, he's lawfully carrying a firearm permitted by law by the state of Florida. So he didn't mask up. He didn't arm himself. And all of these things go to, again, whether or not there was an understanding, whether or not there was an agreement, or whether this is a reaction. Let's take a look at the actions after the event. So this happened August 22nd, 2021. And Mr. Densson, when interviewed by the police, volunteered that he had taken his Taurus 9mm handgun and that he had pawned it at East Tampa Pawn and Gun. Nearly 30 days after the shooting. And I think you'll see that this is not something that was this was something that garnered a lot of attention in the city of Tampa, okay? And if we're looking at the conduct of James Densson following the event, whether there's a consciousness of guilt, whether or not he was trying to cover up, whether or not he was trying to hide, the first thing you're not going to do if you have a gun that has a body on it is tell the police exactly where you took it. The first thing that you're going to do is throw it in the river, throw it in the ocean. Do anything you can to disassociate yourself from that firearm. But James Densson didn't do that. Okay, he didn't change possession of it the next day, the day after that, or until about 30 days later when he took it to East Tampa Gun and Pawn. And if anybody hasn't pawned anything before, what you do is you give them your identification and you give them your fingerprint so that it can be easily tracked back to you. So this is not done under the shadow of somebody trying to hide. This is somebody who is living his life out in the open with nothing to hide. And if you're trying to hide your involvement in some type of a criminal activity, the last thing you're going to do, if you are going to pawn it, is go to East Tampa Gun and Pawn, which is literally adjacent to the Jet on Hillsborough, where this whole situation started. You're going to go as far away as you can. So if we're looking at the circumstances of the killing, and if we're looking at the conduct of James Densson, I would submit to you that the state's burden will not be met. And how are we going to look at that? Well, if we're looking at the evidence, a verdict of not guilty can come from the evidence itself. It can come from a conflict in the evidence, or it can come from a lack of evidence. So if we're looking at the manner in which Suni Bell died, the time and the location of the acts in relation to the shooting of Suni Bell, the shooting at Mary Harrison and at Willie Brown, it would be impossible for the state to meet its burden as to James Densson. So I ask you to keep in mind the circumstances of the killing and the conduct of James Densson, not anybody else. Thank you very much.
Mr. Sonari? Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, state, co-counsel. Again, my name is Dick Sonardi. I have the pleasure of representing Andrew Thompson, and because of the configuration of the courtroom, we are seated way back there. That's Mr. Thompson, the gentleman to his right, and the team, just Scotty Sonardi, my associate. A lady sitting there is our investigator, Katie Rain. This is a very tragic circumstance. No one is denying that. The death of a 4-year-old child, Suni Bell, is very, very tragic. It's also very sympathetic. But the court will instruct you that sympathy is not an issue in this case. It's a matter of the facts, whether or not the state can prove their allegations that are outlined in the indictment alleging the first-degree murder and attempted first-degree murders and a conspiracy, etc. I agree with other co-counsel. This is totally a circumstantial case, okay? I anticipate the state is going to provide a lot of crime scene text. You're going to hear a lot of videos. You're going to see a lot of videos. You may hear some in some of the videos. There's going to be a lot of crime scene text. What we don't have is any direct evidence that incriminates Andrew Thompson, okay? He admits to being at the service station there on Hillsborough Avenue, the Chevron. I think they call it the Jet. But he's there with a number of other people, not only the individuals that are sitting here today, the defendants that are sitting here today, but with 8 or 10 other individuals who are at that gas station. The state wants you to believe, and I believe their argument is going to be, by the actions of those individuals, somehow or other, they conspired to do this shooting. Okay, there is no other evidence of that other than the video of their activity at that service station. The state wants you to believe, at the conclusion of all the evidence, that that is sufficient to constitute a conspiracy between these defendants and possibly others for the shooting and death of Suni Bell. Andrew Thompson admits to being present at the gas station with a number of, as indicated, a number of other individuals besides the 5 individuals that are sitting here. It's probably 8 or 10 individuals there, maybe more. You'd have to count them on the videos. You're going to see as I've indicated, numerous surveillance videos from different locations. There's probably 6 or 8, maybe more. Okay. What they show is very obscure photos of vehicles moving and what is purported to be, and probably is, gunshots coming from different vehicles. The state alleges basically that there is a Infiniti that's occupied by Willie Brown, Mary Harrison, and Suni Bell that is shot. That's the vehicle, the victim's vehicle, going down Hillsborough Avenue that ultimately crashes into a pole. Mr. Brown exit, Mary Harrison exits, and that's the vehicle that Suni Bell is in. There is also 3 other vehicles. I believe Detective Salela will testify that besides the vehicles that allegedly are occupied by these defendants, there was also another vehicle. So instead of being 3 vehicles, 2 vehicles occupied by these alleged defendants, and a third vehicle occupied by 4 other individuals that are not charged. But there was a third vehicle that's not charged. That's, I believe, Detective Salela will testify about. I think we will find there were numerous, and the state will present evidence, I anticipate, showing the number of gunshots where shell casings were located, the type of shell casings, and that they were analyzed. By that, I mean they were analyzed for evidentiary value. Was there any DNA, fingerprints, etc.? And I think we're going to find out there is no evidence that connects those shell casings to Andrew Thompson. The state talked about an opening. I anticipate we will see evidence of cell phone data. By that, I mean location data, where certain phones were located at the time. And I believe the state indicated, and I think the evidence will show, that the cell phone of Andrew Thompson was not specifically at the location where the shootings occurred. It was at a different location away from where the shots were fired, and does not place them specifically at the location. This will start out to be and will conclude as a circumstantial case. The state is going to do a lot of fluff in terms of the videos, in terms of crime scene text, in terms of all the analysis, the phone analysis, etc. There is no direct evidence that incriminates Andrew Thompson. There's no identification by anyone of any of these defendants, other than them being present at the Chevron gas station. That's the only evidence. I submit to you that at the close of all the evidence, that the state's conclusion that Andrew Thompson was a principal or a participant in the shooting is woefully lacking. This is clearly a circumstantial case. And I submit to you at the close of all of the evidence that there will be a lack of evidence and a conflict in the evidence. And I implore you not to duplicate the tragedy of the death of Suni Bell and wrongfully convict another person, a person, for the death of Suni Bell. I would only double the tragedy. I submit to you that the proper verdict at the close of all the evidence presented by the state is a verdict of not guilty as to Andrew Thompson. Thank you.
Ms. Bradley.
I'm going to be brief. So there's been a lot of opening arguments, and as everyone has said, what we say to you is not evidence. So I'm going to reserve my argument about what the evidence shows related to Mr. Hammond for my closing, because you all are going to determine what the true facts are. You will get the law at the end of this, but one of the things, and some people have touched on it, but I want you to see the actual jury instruction, because what makes this case pretty unusual is the fact that we're all being tried together, which is not our choice. So I just want you all to see what the law is related to that and what the judge is going to instruct you at the end of the case. And it says a separate crime is charged against each defendant in each count of the indictment. The defendants have been tried together. However, the charges against each defendant and the evidence applicable to him must be considered separately. A finding of guilty or not guilty as to one or some of the defendants must not affect your verdict as to any other defendants or other crimes charged. So you take the evidence separate for each count that individuals are charged with and each defendant. So just so you all have that guideline to guide you when you're evaluating the evidence. We are going to ask you to use a critical ear and listen to the testimony. Pay attention to what was said earlier, what is said today, what may change, and what matches up and doesn't match up. And at the end of the case, I will be asking you to find Mr. Hammond not guilty. Thank you.
All right, so that was a quick Miss Bradley. I got to get her first name, but all right, we will go through the defense opening. So first up was Brian Gonzalez. He was representing Zavante Samson. So the evidence will show that Suni wasn't restrained or in a car seat and in a back seat. That he didn't discharge a firearm or even possess one. So Javante is age 30. He's there on our list there if you guys can see him. He had nothing to do with this. Story is in the details. You're going to hear a great deal of evidence of where everyone was, but lack of evidence that will convince you that Samson is actually guilty. So pay close attention to what the state can't show you, what Samson did do to conspire with anyone. Or what did Samson do? What did Samson do to conspire? You're going to hear good. This is a prosecution that lies in the hands of circumstantial evidence. I'm not sure if he meant relies or lies. There will be no confession or eyewitnesses that lead to Samson. So he didn't confess, nor are there any witnesses. You'll hear a lot of they, but you'll have to determine if they are the principals. Samson may not be guilty of what the others are. Is he a principal? You'll have to decide that. He intended the crime to occur, he said something, incited it, assisted, advised it. He didn't carry or discharge a gun, but he was driving the car. So he's the driver of car. He's the driver of car one. Car one driver. So he's the driver of car one. So then Samson was arrested on September 30th. You'll see, I guess he said some lies. There was some untruthfulness. Consider the reasons why he said what he said and why. Interesting. All right. Why Willie and Mary were in the area at 9 p.m. and what part they played. Interesting. Again, why? Who cares why they were there? But we'll see. We'll have to find out. We'll have to find out what they're going to say. What was Willie's motivation? Again, I'm very intrigued as to what they're going to say. Like, does it matter why they were there? I mean, if they're shooting at these kids, or these guys, I should say, these young guys, But was Willie shooting at them? Was Mary shooting at them? Like, why stop what you're doing, jump in the car and travel after these guys? Or after Mary and Willie and Sonny? We'll have to find out. Something is amiss with someone being less than candid about why, when, and what was their purpose of being there. Interesting. So maybe Willie was there. He was doing something that he shouldn't have been doing. But again, does that mean that they had to shoot at the car? I don't know. We'll have to find out. Stories in the details and not in the videos. Please keep an open mind. Then Danny Hernandez, who is representing Jalen Bedward. He's the driver of car 3. So we heard from Gonzalez, driver of Brian Gonzalez, representing Samson, car 1 driver. Danny Hernandez, representing Bedward, driver of car 3 driver. This is a horrible tragedy. You'll be asked to set aside feelings. Bedward was merely at the scene. He didn't participate. He didn't conspire. There's no evidence that will show that. He did own a gun, but he didn't fire it. Handed over his phone and consented to a home search. He saw trouble, and the only focus was getting the heck out of there. There's no proof of him firing his gun. That is going to be really interesting for me to see. There's 40 casings and only 2 matched the guns that they found. So where were those other? What happened with those other? 38? Like that. That's really. I don't know. That one's going to be. I can't wait to see that. They only 2 of them matched, and that was a good point. I think. Was it Hellrider? I think you said earlier, like how come they couldn't match the what casing, what bullet went through poor Sonny? Well, they can match. What they can do is they can match the bullets, the casings. Oh, stop it! Super Ball's getting all riled up. They can match the bullets, the casings, I should say, to the guns. They can do that. The firearms, they can match that, but they can't say which bullet went through her, I guess. Other than, it's like a 22 versus, a shotgun. I guess if they were shooting shotguns, those are pellets versus like a 22. I guess they could have told that, but we'll have to wait and hear. We'll have to wait and see what the medical examiner says. But it is true, they can get the casing and they can match that to the bullet, because bullets, they're like fingerprints. Every bullet has its own unique markings. All right, so Danny Hernandez, he's representing Jalen Bedward. Okay, we already did that. Danny Fisetti, he's representing Jason Densson. He's car 3 back passenger. All right, so car 3 back passenger did not have. So he owns a 9mm. All right, so let's see. So the separate crimes have been charged. What are the circumstances? Which car? Densson was in car 3. Rifle versus handgun. Handgun was in possession of Densson. So 2 shots were made by Densson. So he's admitting that he took 2 shots. So he's actually admitting that he fired 2 shots. So maybe these are these are the casings that they found. They said they found 2 casings. So Densson is admitting that he fired twice. But he's saying that his casings will be east of the crashed vehicle. So he's admitting he fired his gun, but the casings will be east of the vehicle. So we'll have to figure out. I got to get a map. That's my next thing. Shots were either before the crash or after. So there won't be witnesses that can say which bullet struck Sonny. First thing they're going to do is throw. He says the first thing you're going to do if you're involved in something like this is you throw your firearm in the ocean. Densson didn't do that. 30 days later, he took it to a pawn shop. You have to fingerprint it and ID. So he's not trying to hide anything. So they're saying there's no consciousness of guilt, even though he pawned it. It was 30 days later. That's interesting because wasn't Samson arrested? When was he arrested? The 30th? When was Samson arrested? I thought he was arrested. Okay, he's arrested on the 30th. This happened August 22nd. Okay, so 30 days would have been like October 20th, 23rd, 22nd, somewhere in there. All right, so then Nick Sinardi, he's representing Andrew Thompson. He was in car 3. He allegedly had the rifle. Nick says you'll hear a lot about texts. There's no direct evidence. You'll see very obscure photos of vehicles. The state alleges that an Infiniti is shot at, crashes into a pole. There's no casings that match. So that's interesting. That's really interesting. They say the cell phone of Thompson will show he was in a different location. There's no direct evidence that will incriminate. Only evidence is that they were at the Chevron, and he says that's for all the defendants. The only evidence that's going to show is that they were they were at the Chevron. They get in the car, and that's it. He says don't duplicate the tragedy of Suni and wrongfully convict somebody. And then Miss Bradley, I didn't catch her first name. She represents Quandarius Hammond. She says she'll save her argument for the closing, and she ended pretty quickly. So that's that. Sure Life, hard for me to believe any of them hard for me to believe any of them only shot 2 times when they start shooting this rapid fire. Right, but why did they only find 2 casings of one gun when there were 40? There's 40 casings, and only 2 of them, as I understand it right now, and I could be completely wrong, but as I understand it, only 2 of them match. Oh, Jennifer's her first name? Oh, okay, Jennifer. Sorry, Jennifer. Got it. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Aaron, for that. Jennifer Bradley. Okay. I thought Jennifer had to be washed out of somebody's hair, but I get it now. Following a different thread. All right, Jennifer Bradley. All right. Sinbad. None of these guys knew how to use a people hole puncher. They all missed an adult target. I can't believe they were aiming for a child. I don't think they were. I don't know. I'm not seeing as this was, oh, there's a child in the back seat. I mean, they're speeding along. They're going, we'll have to find out how fast they were going. All right, stop. Super Ball's getting all riled up. Hey, stop it. Stop. They're speeding along. We'll have to wait to see how fast they were going. Oh, stop it. Stop. I got to show you guys this. And then the little ones are over there. All right, so we'll have to wait to see how fast they were going. I don't know. I need more evidence. Let me put it that way. I just need more evidence. 2 casings, 40 casings found. Only 2 of them matched a gun. Matched one firearm. So out of 40, only 2, so 38. Where do those other 38 come from? So question number 1 is, if I was a juror, I'd be like, that's what I'd be thinking. Wow, who shot those other 38? Where are those guys? Why aren't they on being tried? Then I'm not seeing right now that it was targeted, meaning I think they just were shooting. Well, again, we'll have to see the car. So I want to see the bullet holes in the car. I want to see, was it just in the back window? Because was it tinted? Was the windows tinted? So remember, it's nighttime. It's 9 o'clock. So maybe they see the figure of Suni, but to me, they're just like shooting in the car. To me right now, I don't see them targeting a particular person right now. That's all I'm saying. I don't see that right now. Let's see. Yes, where are the shells? Weird, right? Well, the shells are there, Hellrider. They're there, just they're not being identified to the rifle or the 9mm. So you have 2 guns that were allegedly used. Well, Andrew Thompson admits he fired twice, right? Was it him? Or no? Who admitted it? Sorry, James Densson. Densson is the one that admitted he fired 2 shots. So where are those? Where are the guns that fire those other 38 bullets? That to me is, I have a question for sure. And then were they targeting specifically? Were all the bullets confined to the back window? And then, of course, Sonny's in the back. And if that's the case, why was she? I mean, she's only hit once. Good Lord. I mean, you think she would have been like, all I see is like Sonny from Godfather when he's at the, at the toll booth, and they just get out and they just riddle him. That's what I'm envisioning. 40 bullets. I would just think that, this anybody in that car would just be destroyed. So 40 bullets shot, or 40 rounds released. Only one finds Sonny, sadly. Only one finds Sonny. It only takes one, obviously. Were they focused on the windshield, the back windshield? Were the windows tinted? So those are my two questions. Those are my main two questions. Where were the bullet holes focused on? And then where are those other 38 casings identified? Where are those guns? Where are those guns? So, right? Hellrider, 40 shots is a lot. Do you guys remember The Godfather? Remember Sonny when he goes to the toll booth and he's just riddled? That's what right? Yeah, the machine gun. I remember I watched that as a kid. I remember that had a pretty big impact on as a kid. I'm like, holy smokes. I remember watching that as a kid. I was like, damn. Amy, was it meant for them or was it meant for someone else? That's what I want to know. Well, that's where I'm leaning right now. Like, to me, this was a car that looked like another car. Remember, they were both Infinities. These were both Infinities. One was silver, one was probably gray. They said darker, but it looked kind of like a gray, like a dark gray. Yeah, Sonny. Remember Sonny? Yeah, I love The Godfather. Yeah, we do too. So I'm leaning now, mistaken identity. What got them so mad? What got them so agitated? Like a bee. It's like this car was like a beehive, like a stick in a beehive, and they just were buzzing around. And they went crazy, right? They just went crazy, and they're like, we got to go shoot. So why would you want to shoot like that? What was the cause? Did somebody driving a similar car shoot at them? Maybe earlier in the night, somebody shot at them, or somebody shot at their friend a week ago. Who knows? What's the backstory? Why? We may never know because they may never divulge that. Or maybe we will. Who knows? Maybe we will. 100% guarantee their windows were tinted. Hellrider, it's been so long, but I did see that. Yeah. Sally, it's not hard to toss a gun and give the police a different gun. Sure. Luca Brazzi, that he says. Yes, Luca. Sure Life, take 5 guys, 40 finds 8. Not as many as you think. So then they got rid of the other guns. So then we'd have to say that they got rid of. So then why didn't all 5 of them get rid of their guns? And what were okay? Yeah, why didn't they? Why hold on to a gun for 30 days? Why not just get rid of all of them? The actual pew-pews are in the Atlantic Ocean. They probably have an arsenal. They pawned in different weapons. Sinbad says, widespread, I don't think it matters where they were aiming their guns. One of the bullets hit their child, ended her life. It doesn't matter your intent when firing that weapon. Yeah, that's why I don't necessarily think they were aiming specifically at Sonny. I think they were just, oh my God, it just dawned on me. Sonny from Godfather, Sonny from this trial. That's why I don't think they were aiming specifically at Sonny. I think they were just firing randomly, I would think. Let's see. Mel says, I live in a country where weapons are only carried by criminals and law enforcement. Oh boy, do I have thoughts on this subject? Yeah. All right. We may be getting towards the end of our stream. I think our stream is starting to cack out here. So we may have to end for the night. I think my machine's starting to give up. All right, guys. With that, I will say goodbye. I will say goodbye and thank you for joining us. Do I have? Yeah. Oh, it's a good girl. All right. Super Bowl says, have a good night. All right, you guys. Thank you for joining us. And Super Ball is going to do a cruise by here. Drive by meow. You gonna meow? All right, you got to keep it moving. You got to keep it moving so I can see. All right, she's not going to keep it moving. All right, guys, thank you for joining us. Thank you to our mods. Thank you to Aaron for pulling together items. Thank you to our mods. This may get emotional. This is going to be a trial where we're going to, want to string everybody up, and we just have to, breathe. If you need to take a step away, it's sad. It's going to be a sad case for sure. But if we want to get out the pitchforks and torches, maybe, just if you need to take a step away, we fully understand that. If you need a mental health break from this, we understand. So with that, we're going to pick up on day one. So this was opening statements, right? We heard opening statements. So this was the morning. Then tomorrow we're going to pick up on day one afternoon. And that's only from like 1:30 to 4, I think, 4:30, something like that. So it's like 3 hours, 2.5, 3 hours. So we should be able to, so by lunchtime, and by the end of tomorrow, we'll have caught up on day two as well. So with all that being said, make sure that you say thank you to our mods on your way out. Make sure you thank Aaron on your way out. Make sure you thank Super Ball on your way out. Super Ball. Make sure you thank Super Ball. Here, come here. Make sure you thank Super Ball on your way out. All right, you guys. Have a great evening. And we will see you tomorrow, 8:30. 8:30 Eastern, we're going to start. 8:30 Eastern. Super Ball is... Super Ball is making love to my mic. Oh, it's a good girl. Yeah, it's a good girl. All right. All right, you guys. With that, I'll say goodbye. Have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow, 8:30, and have Sunny in your thoughts and your prayers tonight. So we'll see you tomorrow.